one. At first, there are Dark's Dragon, Falchion's Sword, and Fire Emblem. Hello, this is the Great Riek here with the start of a new series here on YouTube, History of the Emblem. On Twitter I said I was going to be releasing this video series first episode in January, and look at that, I'm only about a few months late. Well, fuck. Yeah, sorry, I underestimated what I was capable of doing in a month, since I've never edited a video like this in my life. That is all on me, so just laying this out here that I cannot guarantee this will be a monthly series like I planned. Rather, it'll be done when I get done. These take a long time to make when I only get 2 days a week to work on them for more than an hour a day. Now that I got that quick little apology out of the way, let's begin. Fire Emblem 1, or Fire Emblem Dark Dragon and the Sword of Light, is a strategy RPG for the NES, or if we want to be more precise, the Famicom solely in Japan. Developed by Shozo Kaga, released on April 20th, 1990, it was met with a decent reception of 329,000 copies sold. At least according to the video game sales wiki, which I'm not sure if that is accurate or not, so forgive me if that isn't too accurate and someone can give me better sales numbers. It is also the only game to have 2 remakes, technically in Book 1 of Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem and in the DS game Shadow Dragon, both of which I will get into when I review their following games, though I will talk about their changes later in this video. Our story is set on the continent of Akanaya, which is divided into the following countries. The country Akanaya itself, which is founded by King Kartus. Then we have Altia, which was founded by the great hero Henri. Then we have Gra, which was founded after Henri's death, as land split from Altea due to inheritance issues. Talus, which is a small island nation that isn't really much to talk about. Aurelis, a kingdom located in the plains, which was founded by Kartus, yet is ruled by the bloodline of his brother Marlon. Grunia, a militant kingdom known for its force called the Black Knights, who are currently headed by the knight Camus. Kadene, a mage kingdom founded by Archsage Goto. Macedon, an island kingdom of Pegasus Knights and Wyvern Knights founded by Eote and currently ruled by Michaelis. Lastly, we have the country of Dolor, which is a country of Manichees founded by the Earth Dragon Medeus. The story starts with our young pantsless Lord Marth, Prince of Altea, who is forced to be exiled from his kingdom when the kingdom of Dolor invades his, with his father dead and his sister captured by the Dark Bishop Garneth. For the last year before this, he had been hiding out in the nation of Talus, where they had harbored him and kept him well protected. However, he is forced into action when the pirate Gazak and his forces come to attack the island. So with the help of his trusted advisor Jagan, his closest friend Sheeta, and his loyal knights, he sets out to fight them off. The game gives you 6 units to start. First, you have your 2 Cavaliers, a mounted class that has good movement and can hold both swords and lances. These are Cain-enabled, the start of an archetype of having a duo of red and green Cavaliers that I, along with usually most of the Fire Emblem community, call the Christmas Cavs. And we see this archetype in almost every game. Also, look at their sprites. The sprite work in this game is just great. But anyway, next is Jagan, the start of an archetype named after him, that is much like him, an old man that can kick ass at first, but falls off later on, starting off as a Paladin class, which is a promotion of the Cavalier class. Next is Sheeta, who is a Pegasus Knight, a mounted flying class, and in this game they are broken as fuck as off the bat. They are able to wield one of the most powerful lances in this game, the Silver Lance. Next we have Doga, who is of the Armor Knight class, which is a high defense but low speed class that, unlike the 2 before it, is not mounted, but can use both swords and lances. Next for our group we have Gordon, part of the Archer class, which cannot use swords or lances, but use bows, which unfortunately in this game are locked to range, so if an enemy goes up to him, he's basically gonna get attacked, with no way to counterattack. Finally we have Marth, who is your main lord. And if this guy dies, well then you have to restart. Talking about the map though, there is not much to talk about layout-wise. From where you start, you have quick access to a village, which in this game only Marth can enter villages, something I feel that is pretty clever. I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense for the leader of a slowly growing army to visit the villages and get their support and morale. Also on occasion get allies from said villages. Though in later games they make it so anyone can visit villages, but that is for another day. For now though, it is solely locked to Marth, and since he is needed for every map and to seize the castle every map anyway, it is not that big a deal in this game. Back on track though, this game kinda blindsided me with how much cash you get off the bat when you visit the first village. You visit said village and get 10,000 gold? Holy shit, I mean, thank you, but how in the hell does a village like this have that much gold? Like, honestly, I could believe like 5,000 max, but seriously? That much gold? I mean, look at the footage of me going to the armory next. I mean, you can buy 10 bowguns with that. Or at the very least, a bunch of iron swords, since everyone except Gordon can wield those. Either way, I feel like despite the price of items, this is a bit much. Though I've played Final Fantasy where you can beat the money out of flowers, so who am I to complain? But for this chapter, gameplay-wise, you don't have much to it. Just have bandits to clear out on the way towards the castle and the boss Gazak. Though said bandits will walk on water on the way to you, so you have to be aware of that. Also, on your way to Gazak, you should be inclined to visit the village near the castle to get your first healer. And oh boy, let me just talk about one of the weirdest things in this game. Healer EXP and how magic somewhat works. So yeah, this is Riff, and he's a healer. Basically having the ability to heal damage, though in this game their amount of healing is set. Riff himself comes with a heal staff, which in itself allows for 10 HP worth of healing. Now with this you may think he would get EXP for healing, simple enough, right? Well, not exactly. What you have to do to get him EXP is to go and put the healer into enemy range to get attacked. If the healer gets attacked and survives, you basically get EXP equivalent to that of if a unit killed an enemy. However, this is risky because in this game, healers are basically unable to gain HP, and most of them don't even have a good defense stat. So basically with that you have to go in and put them at risk of getting attacked, which is worse later in the game because, well, enemies will deal more than 16 damage later on, which is what most healers have at base. And they only have 3 defense, which is basically saying, like, you want to train a healer, get fucked. Also, holy shit, I've been going off the rail about this stuff, aren't I? Like, I'm gonna go off the rails, actually, so fuck this. Like, whose decision was it to do this? Who thought, oh, instead of the simple, oh, let's just make them give EXP for healing, it's like, no, you know what's really smart? Letting your healer, who cannot attack back, get hit for damage. Yeah, we're not gonna give them any defense either, so you're done. You're stuck with them. It's just like, why? Just why? What's the thought process behind this? I would love to interview Kaga and see what his thoughts were with this. Like, I mean, I've read one interview by him, but it never mentioned this bullshit. It was only talking about Fire Emblem 3, which, again, I'll talk about when that comes along, but god damn it. Like, this is just like the dumbest decision I've seen in this game in like any game for the longest time. Okay, yeah, sorry, that was completely unscripted. But anyway, the chapter itself is, again, fairly simple, and after finishing the map, you meet with Sheeta's father, the King of Talus, who tells Marth that on his journey there will be all kinds of people wanting to help him, some being on the enemy side. Basically just tells you, pay attention to the enemies, numbnuts, or something to that effect, really. Yet, that is really it for Chapter 1. The advice the king gives you, well, let's go on to Chapter 2. Now this chapter actually starts off pretty interesting, as you have the large portion of the map heading to the castle with a village to visit that offers you a more reasonable 5,000 gold to the west, while to the north of the starting point you have a group of pirates that will go down to attack you if you ignore them, which is hard to do. especially with the new units right as you start. Apparently with orders from Sheeta's daddy, we get a mercenary named Agama, who is the start of his own archetype that is usually the mercenary that joins you early game, usually out of loyalty to someone, or for payment later down the line. Usually they are pretty good. Next is the fighters Saji, Maji, and Bartz. Wait a minute. Bartz? Holy shit, you got buff. Also, you dyed your hair and you got really fucking buff. Good on you, man. Yeah, I'm just kidding. His localized name is Bartz, but in this game he shares the name with the lovable protagonist of Final Fantasy V. Which is rather funny, given that the Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi and Fire Emblem creator Shozakaga were good friends and had played each other's games. But this game came out in 1992, or 1990, and 1992 was Final Fantasy V, so it's more than likely a coincidence. Jesus, I swear you can get a drinking game off of how often I go off these random trains of thought, and I'm only on chapter 2. This is gonna be a long video. Anyway, with Saji and Maji, they make up an archetype called the Board and Cord archetype, named after their localized names. It is usually a pair of fighters who excel in a field the other doesn't, much like Cain and Abel. But yeah, you get 4 units from the start, making your army already 10 strong, or actually 11 strong. I made that mistake in writing. Though, with that, there are 2 more units you can get to recruit. Up the top is Daros of the Pirate class, which in this game is basically like the Fighter class, only they are part Jesus and can walk on water. Something my dumbass forgot to get footage of. Then next is Kashim, who is an archer that is the first of many that can be recruited by Sheeta. Though Kashim's reason is a good one. Mostly that he thought working with bandits would get his mother medicine money. But either way, most of these characters you get in this chapter are pretty useless. And why is that? Well, except for Agama, none of them promote. And with that, their growths are also just decent at that. So with that, they quickly become irrelevant. Especially the axe users, since unless you favor them and buy every kind of axe in the game out of the chapter's armory, they get fucked in their weaponry too, since there are literally about 3 or 4 armories in a 25 chapter game that sell axes. But yeah, if you want to use them, you can go ahead. In this chapter, you will also visit a village telling you that a cleric named Lena has gone to the Devil's Mountain and has yet to return. And this is the same village that I mentioned that gives you the more reasonable 5,000 gold. Coincidentally enough, you are told by the person who greets you at the castle at the end of this chapter to go to the Devil's Mountain as well. This leads you to chapter 3. This chapter starts with 2 people on the run from bandits, those being the aforementioned healer Lena and the thief Julian. Lena herself offers to use the special staff, the warp staff, to get him away, yet Julian refuses to let her be alone since, well, they're bandits, and who knows what they would do to a lone girl like this, especially one who literally has no power to fight back since staffs in this game are not able to attack. Not that I think they would be useful, but either way, they stick together. Though Lena does not have her relief staff on her, with it being taken by the bandit leader for this chapter. So this chapter starts with immediate danger as your 2 new units already have bandits coming after them, with only having a narrow mountain path to go down, and the swordsman Navarre, who is a massive threat. Good incentive to hurry up, I must say, but with them we get Lena, who is the start of her own archetype of the female healer that usually starts in danger from bandits. She also has one of the most broken staffs in the game, the Warp Staff, a staff that allows her to send an adjacent unit to anywhere on the map. This makes for a technique used in most runs called the Warp Skip, which is named that way because basically you can send a unit or 2 to the chapter objective and complete it. And, at least in the early games. So, you could send Julian away, but at the same time you only get 2 in this entire game, so use it wisely. Also, because I gave a real quick explanation of healers and how they are wet paper, leaving her basically alone makes for a different form of fucks than the bandits originally thought about. Though, next is the thief Julian, which we have seen several of them before, but he's the first we recruit. and also of an archetype named after him. Julians are usually thieves that you get in the early game, and usually has a connection to the Lena, or to the next archetype, the Navarre. Navarres are usually edgelords, who are usually enemies when they first start, and also have dangerous weapons called the Killing Edge. A sword that by default has a good crit rate, in this game it is 20, while most games have a 30% crit rate, but that is still deadly as fuck to be used against you, so you want to recruit this guy and make him on your side quick. So of course, who recruits him? Sheeta, who questions him for joining with a group of bandits, much like Kashim, and like Kashim, convinces him to join the army. So while you are sending others to help with the bandit situation up north, splitting up your party again, you also have a village in the west to go to, and well, here's the dialogue in its basic form. Thank you for coming to our village. As thanks, here's this axe, but beware, for it is cursed and craves flesh and blood. And with that, you get the devil axe. Oh, and allow me to talk about this for just a bit. This weapon will have quite a history to it, and like most things, it will all starts here. It's a pretty powerful axe, with it having 20 might in this game. However, they are heavy as fuck usually and come with one bigger problem. They bite you in the axe. You see, devil axes have a backfire rate. In this game, at least according to Mangs and the Wikia, they have a backfire rate of 21% minus the luck stat. So with that, if your fighter has 0 luck and they have a 1 in 5 chance of being fucked. But also with that, the max luck is 20, so you will always have in this game a 1% chance of backfire. So while this axe could deal heavy damage, beware its backfire, for it will fuck you and fuck you hard. Especially if this happens when you crit. Guess that means rest in peace, you poor sod. Anyway, after you clear the bandits up north and kill the boss, you also gain a relieve staff, and also after you conquer the castle, you get a nice 15,000 gold pieces. This game really likes giving you money so far, but at least getting money from a castle makes sense. Also makes sense when you have a whole bunch of brigands who were holding that money in the castle. But then your advisor, who I forgot to mention up to this point is named Miletus, tells you that you are going to the country of Orleans. This is where we get to Chapter 4. Chapter 4, to me, repeats the trend of the last few chapters, where you have enemies up to the north to deal with, but with this you also have something called the Unit Select screen. With the amount of units you have in the game now, it wants you to choose 14 to deploy onto the field for this battle, Marth being a default for this map and every other map. Which means you can deploy characters you want instead of forcing you to have all the units along with you. Though for this chapter I will say it may be for the best that you bring Lena, for one reason. One of the enemy cavaliers is her brother Mathis, who is recruited by her with an interesting conversation, given this game's weird translation at least. Brother, aren't you Matchis? It's me. Rena, what are you doing here? The Rishian army saved me from bandits on Devil's Mount. Why are you with the army? After you betrayed the king, Macedonia became worse and worse. I was forced into the army and brought here. I don't like war, but it's hopeless. Don't say that, brother. If you're not brave and won't follow the right, Macedonia will help Durham in making people suffer. Join the Rishian army. They will welcome you. They are great people. I see. If I'm about to die, I might as well look cool doing it. But it's tough looking after a betrayer. By the way, have you found a man you love? There's no one. Looks like there is, but I don't mind as long as it's no thief. Which is basically just there to tell you Julia and Rena are going to end up together in a not-so-subtle way. But this is an NES game, and the story isn't really a strong point in most NES games. At least not the spoken story. Though in this chapter you also meet Marth's friend Merrick, who is the start of his own archetype of mages that usually are your first mage you get, and like Merrick, use wind magic. Merrick also comes with his own personal tome Excalibur, a powerful tome that is light to wield and has 13 might, which in this game for magic is usually a 2-hit kill, but also has a nice hit rate of 100%, which means he can basically hit anything. It's also a fucking killer weapon with a 20% crit rate. Also has 33 uses. I love this goddamn thing. Anyway, one important thing I want to mention here is the arena, since this is the first chapter to introduce it. The arena is a place where you can take a unit to fight and gain EXP, but it is also a gambling game within it. In this game you have to pay an amount of gold, and if you win, you get 10 times that amount. Easily getting your money high up there and as far as 655,530, which I think is a weird capped number, though this may have been just a weird glitch to happen to me. My gold reset to 13,710 after I got it maxed out in the arena. But anyway, if you lose your character dies. Another thing with the arena is that it uses whatever weapon you currently have equipped, and the unit you send in to fight will fight with said weapon. Also, the weapon you use, much like it does in regular battle, will deteriorate and eventually break. So be careful not to use a powerful but rare weapon in the arena, like say the Excalibur. You break that and you don't get another one in this game, so be aware of your weapon usage. Anyway, after you defeat the boss of this chapter and conquer yet another castle, they will tell you that Princess Nina and the King of Orleans are being protected by Hardin and his forces in the castle to the north. You also get a silver sword to give to Hardin when you see him, which you do in the next chapter, Chapter 5. When you start this chapter, you immediately meet Hardin, and he tells Princess Nina that Marth's army has arrived, and that him and his group, the Wolf Guard, will protect her and to stay inside. With that, you get 5 new units immediately. Those being Hardin and his 4 seemingly unimportant members, especially since they never talk once. Also, in the mountain path to the north, we have an enigma in the form of a bishop named Wendell, who is Merrick's teacher and his own archetype of pre-promoted mages that teach the Merrick archetype and are often in their own right very powerful. But with his recruitment, we learn that the nation of Kadeen is currently under the control of the Dark Bishop Garneth, who's gotten many of the said kingdom's mages to be in the army of Dolar, and Wendell wants your help to defeat them. But also when you visit the village of this chapter, you get a peculiar item, a firestone, with a villager you meet saying that he had sworn to sing a Manakete and found the stone. Something to note for the chapter. But in all honesty, this chapter does well to set up the next chapter, Chapter 6, where you basically take the castle from there, and with that, Nina rewards you with the item that the game is named after, the Fire Emblem, aka the Thief Bencher. Why do I call it that? Well, that's because with the Fire Emblem, Marth has the ability to open chests. Doors still need a door key for them, but you can get those for 500 gold, which in this game is fucking chump change. So yeah, him getting the Fire Emblem makes you need only 1 thief. So Richard gets fucking benched. Rip, you blue-haired bitch. But anyway, in Chapter 7 we have an interesting chapter, meeting 4 characters that will not join you just yet. Those being the Wyvern Knight Minerva and her group the White Wings, consisting of sisters Paula, Katria, and the pink-haired Est. Interestingly enough, Minerva is seen at the start disagreeing with the boss of the chapter, Heimlin's ideals. But this same guy lords the fact that her forces lost so many in Orleans, and that if she disobeys, hell knows what will happen to her sister Maria. So reluctantly at the start of the turn, she and her followers move towards you. However, at the start of the second turn, she commands her forces to leave, and they begin moving off the map, and with that leave completely. Another thing to note in the village you go down to is you meet Banutu, who says he's looking for Chiki. With that, he mentions that she is the last survivor of the Naga clan, and can face the demonic dragons of Medius' forces. He also tells Marth that he is a fire dragon, but he lost his stone. Wait, didn't we find a dragon stone 2 chapters ago? Ah, that is a rather clever bit that you prepared, IS. Prepare us for our first Manakete unit, and when they arrive, if you were smart enough, you'd be able to trade immediately to Bantu, and you'd kick ass. Know why? Well, the Firestone automatically gives 12 defense, and it is unbreakable. One of 3 weapons that are unbreakable in this game. So while his growths are kinda shit, he will kick all kinds of ass. But after you beat this chapter, you have Meleus tell you that the story of the 3 dragon tribes. The Light Dragon tribe of Naga, the Dark Dragons of Basilisk, and the Fire Dragons of Salamander. Naga defended the humans while the others went against them. To restrict their power, they had to create the Dragon Stones to make sure they couldn't go wild. For a bit, there was an era of peace. Yet, Medeus came along to mess that up. He took out the Naga tribe and also made the country of Dura with his long reign. That isn't until Marth's ancestor, Henri, came with the Falchion and basically put his falchion-shaped foot into the Earth Dragon's ass. With this, it is also told that Marth is the chosen one to kill Medeus yet again. Chapter 8 itself is not much to mention aside from one particular recruitment convo that should be seen by all. The recruitment for the Armor Knight Roger. I mean, this is fucking amazing. And something I thought was solely for the remake, but just let me read it. Hi, I'm Sheeta of Talus. I want to fight. You just surprised me. Was it on purpose? You believe in love? You love someone? What? Are you alright? I'm sorry, I just wanted to speak with you. You look so nice. What's your name? I'm Roger of Grenia. Roger, in war, women and children cry. My group's trying to end this useless fighting. Do you understand? I do. I don't fight because I want to, but because I can't betray them. You care for someone in Grenia? My parents died and I have no lover, but I can't betray Grenia. No matter what? Yeah, sorry. I see, but you really are a nice person. I'm glad we got to chat. You're leaving? If I stay any longer, I'll cause problems for you. You're a nice person. There are no women like you in Grenia. Hey, don't leave just yet. I'll go with you. Oh my god. What the fuck was that all about? She'd play some sort of mind game that works. This line when I first saw it in an NES game where truthfully dialogue is fucking sparse, it blew me away. Good job here, Kaga. This is some good fun writing. But anyway, let's talk about Chapter 9. You come here to escape enemy forces, but at the same time, you invade a place that is a haven for pirates and bandits where they can seemingly be at peace together. However, and this is just my interpretation, it seems as if Marth and his group invaded and are coming to take the castle. But that is just a small thing in this battle to reclaim the continent from the Earth Dragon itself. Also, in the village of this chapter, you meet a lone sniper named George, who is the start of his own archetype. Georges are people of interesting importance that hide themselves as regular travelers, at least in later games and in this remake of this game, since nowhere in this game is it hinted that at, or said that he is a nobleman in disguise. Oh yeah, he is a nobleman in disguise. Also, I forgot to show his actual recruitment on screen. Fuck. But anyway, after that you have Chapter 10, aptly named Minerva. In this chapter you find Minerva's sister Maria, who when you rescue, she mentions to herself how handsome Marth is. Something I find funny since a lot of women in the Arcanaya games seem to find Marth to be a sexy beast. Yet with her recruited, she convinces her sister that there is no longer a need to fight for what she doesn't believe in. Oh, and both of these are their own archetypes in the series, with Maria his being healers of noble blood, while Minerva's are usually wyvern knights who fight against their homeland after being persuaded by the army that has been their enemy for a few chapters. But after that chapter and coming face to face with to save Minerva's family, you hear something of interest. Nina asks Marth if he has heard of Archbishop Meroa, who once held the Aura spell but died against the Archbishop Garneth. It is also mentioned that he had a daughter named Linde, however her whereabouts are unknown. This leads us into the next chapter, the Norda Market, where a small part of the map is cut off from the rest, and you meet Linde there, and well, she is found out hiding as a boy, but however, she along with many children are said to be sold as child slaves. Something going on right under the kingdom of Arcanaya's nose, since they themselves are so focused on the war going on in front of them. In reality, this whole ordeal of child slavery is just a minor detail. A minor detail in a Nintendo game of all things. Something most North American audiences would be shocked by if they saw this. I mean, I know I for sure was when I first saw this. But, again, that's just something that Kaga is really good at. Hidden lore that you really have to focus on to find. It's something I love from him. Like, in later games, you'll see all sorts of, hidden stuff that he never outright says. And it's genius, in my opinion. There's no denying that. And also with this we have another archetype. Lindays, who are usually powerful female mages who focus in light or fire magic and are usually stronger in power compared to their male counterparts, the Merrick, but also a bit slower, at least in a few of the games. Personally, I find this funny because Fire Emblem later on seems to love making the female counterpart fast but weaker. Just a minor thing I had noticed. Also, before I move on, in a village you meet the eponymous Anna, who is basically the equivalent to Cid from the Final Fantasy series, in that there are multiple versions of her in basically every FE game except for 2 of them. But again, just a little thing to take note of, which this game is full of if I haven't pointed that out yet. With Chapter 12, you go back to taking Arcanine Castle from Dolor Forces, and with it you get the Paladin Midia, her sidekicks the Archer Thomas, 2 Knights Tomp and Michelin, and lastly Boa. Though I can't tell you why I personally feel that these guys are important to mention, especially since these guys in the long run won't really matter. None of them will cause any trouble at all. But anyway, there isn't much to say again till Chapter 14, where you head to Gra and take on Giol, who is actually responsible for the murder of Marth's father Cornelius. And Marth brings him down. Yet others notice that you finally get 2 more Pegasus Knights with Minerva's allies, Paula and Katua. Also in this village, in the chapter, you meet someone mysterious, a blonde man who gives you a Thoron tome, asking you to give it to Boa, but he also mentions that he wants you to keep Princess Nina safe. Just who is he? I hope we can find out more about that later. Yet with Giol gone and revenge taken for Marth's father's death, and taking Gra, you learn that the Falchion is not to be found here, but rather that Garneth has it and that Garneth is in Kadeen. This leads us through the desert of Kadeen in Chapter 15, where we first meet Garneth and learn one thing. You can't win against Garneth. At least for now. You see, in order to have a chance at Garneth, you need to create the Starlight Tome, which is made by the 2 orbs, the Star Sphere and the Light Sphere. This is something that the legendary Sage Goto's voice appears to Marth in his head to tell him. This is also the first time we meet Goto. Goto is also one of the few divine dragons that survived the destruction of them that Midias caused. He also created said Starlight spell that is needed to kill Garneth. However, your journey takes you back to where Marth is from, the Kingdom of Altia. After so long into the war, he finally gets to return home. Yet home does not welcome him with open arms, but rather swords and lances. With Chapter 16, we begin our take-back. But before we can storm the castle, we also come across 2 villages, both of whom hate each other and won't want to associate with Marth if he visits one or the other first. In one village, the paladin named Aaron and a hero named Samson is in the other. They are in fact their own archetype, being 2 characters who you can never recruit both in the same run, usually due to their own rivalry, usually over some dumb reason. Sometimes it is due to the game giving you an incentive to do something, and if you fail to do it, you get the other character. But again, it is one or the other, never both. In this case, I ended up getting the hero Samson, who turned out to be one of my best units, especially since he came in with a shit ton of speed. Actually, both. He had 15 as a level 1 hero. 5 away from max, which is fucking awesome, since he pretty much maxed speed even with his 20% speed growth, about 5 levels after he joined. The next unit you get is Zane, who's unique in his own way since he is the class of the Chameleon, and he is the only unit in all of Fire Emblem to have it. You see, the Chameleon class have the ability to change into another unit, imitating their stats and their map sprite. Only for 1 turn though. With that in mind, they automatically return to their original weak class at the start of the next turn, which makes them, to me, a little useless. No offense to anyone that likes the class, but I just don't, and hope it doesn't come back unless they extend the transformation duration. But that's just me. So after you defeat the forces outside of the castle, Marth's forces head into his home to take it back, defeating the dragon Morzis, or as he's called in this game, Moses. With that though, there's also an interesting little thing in the door behind the throne room, that being the secret shop. It is a staple of most of the series that there will be these things. They usually sell good stuff, whether it be promotion items, stat boosters, or rare tomes and weaponry. This first secret shop is where I found that gold glitch I mentioned earlier, where my gold went from max to jack shit. Either way, the secret shops are nice little things to look out for as long as your unit you are looking for them with has a thing called the member card. Otherwise, you could find it at the right spot and then just wonder why you aren't entering a shop, like I'll mention in an experience with another game, 6 games from now. Anyway, now with Altia back under Marth's control, he still has a war to fight. And with that, he makes his journey to Raman in order to get the Star Sphere and the Light Sphere. Yet as he reaches Kashmir Bridge, he is met by the Black Knights, Grunia's elite forces headed by Camus the Sable. However, he is not here just yet. But there is one person that appears, the last of the White Wings herself, Est. With Est herself, I get to talk about 2 archetypes. Oh, I'm gonna love this. First is the Est archetype, named after this cute, pink-haired girl right here, which is basically a unit who starts off much lower level than the units in your army currently are, a level 5 unpromoted Pegasus Knight in Est's case, but if you take effort to train them, they will turn into beasts. But the only problem is that if you aren't into grinding levels, then they aren't worth it. Personally, I love Est myself, but I'm not blind to their flaws, though this Est is helped by being part of our next archetype, the White Wings. White Wings are quite the fun archetype since they are in a group of 3 Pegasus Knights, whether they are sisters or not, that when they work together they can perform a special skill called the Triangle Attack. What the Triangle Attack is basically a hit that if it lands is a guaranteed critical, when the units are placed as followed. 1 to the left of the enemy, 1 to the right of the enemy, and then 1 right below or above the enemy. But it is a very specific skill that only the 3 can do. In this game, it is Paula, Katua, and Est. But with them reunited and making your way to the Tower of Raman, we come to get the 2 spheres we need to make Starlight. However, we also meet the dragon that Bantu mentioned, named Cheeky, the Divine Dragon. But she is not on our side and is instead brainwashed by Garneth, and is quite the threatening enemy, especially with her Divine Dragon Stone. So Bantu makes his way to Cheeky to get her back to herself, while the rest of the group goes in to grab the Star Sphere, the Light Sphere, and with that we also get the Geosphere. Now interestingly enough, the Star Sphere and the Geosphere are in treasure chests, while the Light Sphere was in the hands of a thief. So I get Martha and Julian to grab the chests while I have Hardin kill the thief that has the Light Sphere. For some reason though, I feel like Hardin should have kept it on him. No idea why, but I just feel like he needed to keep it on him. Well, it's too late for that now, since I have to give it to Marth. So for the next few chapters, because both of these items basically make Marth immune to terrain effects and his weapons can't run out of uses because of these, I have to keep them on him. Well, the Geosphere, if I use it, can basically damage everything on the map, and I think kill them if weak enough, which is beautiful. Either way, after that we reach chapter 20. Remember that blonde guy that gave you the Thoron tome a few chapters ago? Well, he was Camus the Sable, leader of the Black Knights and loyal to Grunia. He is also the person who Nina is in love with, defending him as a great person who isn't evil, yet will not betray his country. He is also his own archetype of people that are much like him. In this same chapter we also get another person, one of our last 3 characters, the General Lorenz, who is also his own archetype. Lorenzes are generally characters loyal to their kingdom, much like Camus, but unlike the Camus archetype, they believe that the main character's army may actually help the Lorenz's kingdom and will join you. They are also the hardest characters to recruit because mostly they will kill themselves on you or have some sort of complicated recruitment. In Lorenz's case, he is literally the only recruitable enemy in this game that will attack the person that is supposed to recruit them rather than just talk to them. Yeah, in this game so far, every enemy that is recruitable went up to the person they were supposed to talk to. Not in Lorenz's case, as I had to restart 4 times just to recruit this bastard. But he's also the only general you get in this game. Anyway, you unfortunately have to defeat Camus, taking his Gradivis for yourself in order to progress. For some reason though, I feel like we've not seen the last of him. No idea why though, especially because we never see him again in this game, so I have absolutely no idea why I think we will meet him again. But overall, we now have finished our time in Grunia and make our way to the Kingdom of Macedon, home of Minerva and Maria and their brother, the Wyvern Rider Michaelis. Michaelis is another person that follows an archetype, which means archetype time! Michaelis is our villains who are in pursuit of power, whether for their own selfish means or for the good of their people. Michaelis is pretty much himself of the former. With that, they're also just pawns in the main villain's own ambitions, which is pretty much true for every Michaelis. But with that same map you fight Michaelis, and you also go to the village where Goto resides to get the Starlight Tome, the one spell that can negate Garneth's math spell that makes him invincible. This leads to chapter 23, the Dark Pontifex. This chapter is brilliant in concept, but at the same time it fails to do what its idea is. Basically, with this map you have 4 versions of Garneth, with only one holding the blade Falchion. However, in this game, the versions of Garneth that are fake all hold the Warm Tome instead of math. Gee, way to make it easy to know who the hell to kill. At least I get EXP from them. Guess I can't complain, but these fuckers are a waste of time. I of course killed them all and got Linde to take down Garneth, who when he dies tells you, "Even if I die, your power's no match for Mediath. I'll wait patiently in hell." See you there, pal. Get the grill ready and I'll bring the hot dogs. But yeah, with his death he drops the Falchion, Marth's personal blade. Also with this chapter, this is the last secret shop, and you'll want to use it since it sells every promotion item, and you'll have at least 3 units you can be promoted of every class, except archers, where if you are really wanting to use, you can use them, but there are already 2 archers, and they already got their promotion items, and both Gordon and Thomas pretty much suck, so don't waste your money on their promotion items, like I did. So with Garneth dead, you discover something interesting. Marth's sister Ellis, whom Garneth took for her ability to use the Ohm Staff. The Ohm Staff is a staff that has the ability to bring a unit back from the dead, but only if we go to a specific temple that is in the next chapter, Dragonland, as it is called in this game. It is also the second to last chapter in this game. All I can say about this chapter is this: thank the fucking Lord for the Falchion and for Cheeky. Without them, this chapter would be tedious. With this chapter, you get Ellis as a playable unit, and she is even more squishy than your already motherfucking squishy healers, but she at least has a defense growth. In fact, she has growth since most healers in this game can't level for shit, especially with them having 0% growth in over half their stats. Also, did I mention a defense growth on a mother-clucking healer? This is a fucking miracle, and I love it! If she still wasn't squishier than a water balloon with low dodge, which at this point is basically being fucked in the EXP department due to how I previously mentioned how healing EXP works. But I had to drag her along as she had the Ohm Staff and could revive my useless thief that I killed off solely for the reason to use this staff. It has only one use, so I decided to kill Ricardo to give him some use. Only problem is there are these annoying reinforcements up the ass. Now up to this point I haven't talked much about reinforcements. But that is because they are very few and not constant. Also not fucking dragons and heroes. I mean, I originally looked up a guide to see how this went, and there's no accurate info on this crap. In fact, I looked up this chapter and all I could find was reinforcements spawns until the unit dies. This is true in the DS remake of the game, Shadow Dragon. In this game, however, the reinforcements, dragons and Pegasus Knights, come at you in a constant flow for almost 40 turns, no matter what. But that is where Cheeky comes in. You see, Cheeky's Divine Stone is OP as fuck. You see, it deals effective damage to enemy dragons, and with that, and the steroids I have fed her in the form of stat boosters from a secret shop, and her amazing growth of every stat being 50% except for 0 defense, which is fine because the Dragon Stone gives 15 extra defense. She's amazing, and because there were so many dragons, she became MVP for this map. Her and Marth, with Marth and his Falchion, are amazing because, much like Dragonstones, it has unlimited uses, plus it has 2 abilities. It cancels attacks from any non-dragon unit, and when his HP gets low, he can use it to heal to full. He gains full HP. This was really helpful, as you can see on screen. I had Marth guard the entrance to the temple Elise needed to go to get into for me to use the Ohm, which I admit was pointless, but in all honesty, I felt like I had to show it off. Though with that all said and done, We get to the throne room where we get a message from Media. Damn, kid, don't be so happy. You might have infiltrated my castle, but I won't surrender. I'll show you the power of the Earth Dragons. Come to fight! Which leads us into the end game, Chosen Ones. When you start this, you immediately get one last guy, Goto the Bishop. He tells you that he made a vow never to speak to humans ever again, but after watching Marth in his journey, he felt the need to help. With that, he also makes up the final archetype, the Goto archetype, named after his official localized name. Gotos are units that, while their character has been around for the majority of the game, they only join you for usually the final chapter of the game. They're usually decent units that'll be helpful if you bring them in. It also comes with a reserve staff, which allows him to heal every ally on the map by 10 HP, which is really helpful. One more thing to note with the map is that it does not have the usual map theme that every map before it has had, which I'm gonna apologize because that's the only song I've been using this entire video, aside from the opening, and the main reason for that is you hear that theme all the time in this game, and, well, it's stuck there forever and gets annoying, because, well, you're there for like the entire hours at a time, you know? And, yeah, and I know I keep stumbling here, but this is what happens when I go off script, because I forgot to write down parts about this. It's annoying. It just really grates on you. So, yeah, anyway, this map has its own theme, which is an amazing theme. Here, take a listen. Personally, I love the song. It is very ominous, making Midiath feel like a complete threat, despite the fact that he and this map are very easy to cheese. You see, all you would need to beat this chapter is the Warp Staff. A Warp Staff I do not have because I was an idiot and misused the fuck out of that thing. Both of them, in fact. So I had to take the long way around to get Marth, who, because I am a goddamn genius and give him a pair of boots to increase movement, had 11 move. So with that, I went the long way, killing... Oh wait, I just went to grab a door key and then walked up to Midiath like a boss and killed him. Ugh, I lost to the humans? But remember, Prince of Light, one day, as long as there is darkness, my manifestations will appear. Remember, as long as there is light, there will always be darkness. Yeah, I'm sure that doesn't mean jack shit. Not like you'll ever appear in an FE game again. But anyway, I will let the game speak. With Midiath defeated, Dura disappeared into darkness. The 3 long years of war were finally over. The continent of Akanaya was bathed in light once more, and Marth's long journey will end. Marth, can I return to Talos now? Yes. Sheeta, I need to thank your father, but then I must return to Arishia. I see. We need to rebuild the lands ruined by the war. Haha, Marth, you're trying to trick the most important thing to you. Go and meet Sheeta. Nina, this isn't good. Sheeta... Ah, yes? Could you come to Arishia with me? Yes, I'd love to. Well, guess there was a relationship there that was not really built up. But that's normal for a Famicom game. With that, that was Fire Emblem Dark Dragon the Sword of Light. It was a nice game, but a weird one. For one, this game gives you a ton of units, but I feel like it is for a good reason, as it was stated in an interview between creator Shozo Kaga and Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi, where he basically says he wanted everyone to be able to have backup in case a unit dies, so they don't feel inclined to restart, which is interesting given later approaches to death in the series. Speaking of death, in this game, there's interestingly enough some characters that have death quotes and others that do not, while most bosses do not. It strikes me as weird, but thinking about it, perhaps they were meant to give more characters death quotes, but due to limitations, could not. But guess we'll never know. With that in mind, there's also the fact that this game gives you so much money that it's ridiculous. Usually being able to max out your gold with ease and about the halfway point. But the worst thing in this game is the item system, and I mean it is goddamn terrible. You only have 5 item slots, and when you get more, you have to choose between putting that item into the goddamn convoy for 10 gold or dropping it. So of course I send it to the convoy if I want to keep it like, say, Falchion. Yeah, you can drop that fucking thing. Same with the Starlight Tome. Just imagine the situation after meeting Goto, after you do that. Marth, here you go. Here's this important as all fuck tome that you need to beat the one evil motherfucker. Do not drop it. You got it, wise sage man. Wait. My inventory is full. I could send this to the convoy or drop it. I need my other weapons on me right now. And I can't use this, so goodbye. Humanity is fucked and I put it in the fate of a moron. I mean, I could be wrong to imagine that is how the conversation would go. Or with the Falchion. Imagine going to battle and realizing that Linde decided to drop the goddamn Falchion. Now that I have no idea about you guys, but that's hilarious to me. Imagine Medea just crushing Marth's ass as an alternate ending. But I'm just kidding. In all reality, it is impressive for an NES Famicom game, given that it had about 50 playable characters, also has a shit ton of items, and lastly had a lot of dialogue. I didn't outright say most of it, but to be honest, most of the games in this era back then were bare bones with their story, while this game has a lot of dialogue and exposition and recruitments. Seriously, again, I thought the Roger recruitment before this was just a thing in the remake, but no, it is legit from the first game. That seriously amazes me given the limitations of the system. But just because I'm impressed doesn't mean everything in the game is good. To be honest, I was wanting to give up during the first 6 maps because of how boring and repetitive the maps were with them doing the same gimmick of enemies on both sides all the time, and the game just generally being slow at first. Seriously, it moves at a pace that snail could faster than. Its artwork is also hilariously bad. Also with that, they reuse the same sprites without even recoloring them. Seriously, just look up Mathis and Draku for examples. Or Board and Cord. Also looking at the arena manager sprite is hard for me to distinguish at first what the background is and where his face ends. One more thing that bothers me is something that I previously mentioned in Healer XP. It is the dumbest thing we have have healers literally get punched in the face to get level ups, and again with their squishy as fuck defense and usually 0 to 20% HP growth, Alice was standing, they get fucked hard. Also because of how set magic and staves are in damage in this game, it is hard to say that healers on their own are worth it when you have bishops that can use both. But funny enough, with that, if you have a heal staff in this game, that staff is what equipped to the bishop instead of a spell. Yes, Radiant Dawn isn't the first game in the series to have people fucked by wielding a staff, but that is another topic for a day in the far, far future. Another thing of interest, as I mentioned, is that every class is playable, and there are no enemy-exclusive classes. Every class you face is one you can recruit, whether it be the pirate class, since you can recruit Darius, down right to the Manakee class, which you fight many of in the endgame. Funny enough, despite starting as an enemy, Cheney's Freelancer class is the only class where you are the only person to have them. No other Freelancer appears, and it's exclusive to Cheney, but the point still stands. Also, with this game, there are only 5 classes that promote to another class. Cavaliers to Paladins, Pegasus to Dragon Knights, Archers to Snipers, Mages to Bishops, and Clerics to Bishop. Every other class is a single-tier class, which for some classes makes them hard to use, such as Horsemen, Fighters, Ballista, and Pirates, especially when they get leveled screwed. The promotion system is stupid, however, as you need a specific item for each class to promote them. Why not just make it one item? Why waste so much space doing this crap? Hopefully this gets fixed in later games. But anyway, something I like is how enemies give you a set amount of EXP for a kill. If the screen says an enemy is worth 32 EXP, that kill will give you 32 EXP, while if you just deal damage to an enemy, you'll gain EXP equal to that damage dealt up to 20. I feel like it is a nice system that makes it easy to give EXP to everyone, including improved notes who in later games I have a much harder time getting EXP to. Though there is a shit ton of units at 52 playable characters, which is a lot of people to use, but again, it was meant to allow people to have backup use in case they mess up, and truthfully, you don't have to use every unit. One last feature I want to talk about is with Mars specifically, where he has different animations for the swords he uses. He has 3 to 4 off the top of my head. One for when using a rapier, one for when using a regular sword, one for when using the miracle sword. And I'll say I'm not sure if this is another animation or reuses the sword animation, but I think the Falchion has their animation. Again, something that's amazing for this game on a system such like the Famicom. But overall, this game is impressive if not flawed, and it was fun to look back at the very first game in the series. The game has a pretty solid mechanics though, all things considered, and also the game's uniform stat caps of 20, except for Res S7. The classes are a bit unbalanced. Basically, mages are nearly unstoppable for most of the game, and cavaliers are both speedy and nearly capped defense and are often really strong. Cavaliers are just OP. Let's leave it at that. For now, a long war is over, a darkness is over, the world is defeated, Marth and his retainers have just won. It is one of the legends of Falchion. Let's go, because the next battle has already started. So, join me next time as we go to the land of Valencia to play one of the most unique games in the series, Fire Emblem Gaiden. Oh, and be sure to point out anything I am wrong about or anything I've missed. I'm not perfect, and this was me looking into the game with my own eyes and what I caught. Only guide I had was for secret shops, and my mindset that this will be a lot different from the DS counterpart. But anyway, I will see you guys next time.